Welcome to Integrate. I'm Rhiannon. Today we're going to be doing a flow that has wild thing, front split, and we're going to be working on our forward folds. So let's get right into it. We'll come to the front of our mat. We'll be starting with the basic sun salutation. Inhaling up, exhaling fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Stepping back into that plank, shifting your shoulders over your wrist. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, coming down, tucking the toes. Downward facing dog. Taking a moment to pedal those heels. And find that stillness before we walk it up towards the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bringing it up. Going right down into that fold. Pausing here. We're going to bend that right knee. Taking that left hand to right knee. Look over the right shoulder. Maybe opening that hand up towards the sky. Releasing down into that fold, other side. Bending that left knee, right hand to leg. Looking over. Coming down, find a little bend in your knees. Exhale, bring your rib cage down towards your thighs. Straightening those legs. Then on your next inhale, stepping back into that plank. Exhale, lowering to the mat. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, coming down, tucking the toes. Downward facing dog. Walking your feet towards the front of the mat. Halfway lift. Pausing here for a second. Find the balls of your toes. Shift your weight forward. Long line of energy out through that top of that head. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive up. Moving on into a lunge series. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Stepping that right leg back. Coming into a lunge, keeping your hands on the ground first. We're going to pull our feet together. Lifting those hips up. Exhale, sink. Pull those feet together. Exhale, sink. Feet together. Exhale, sink. Releasing that leg down. Untucking the toes. Lifting up. Low crescent lunge. Bringing those hands down to your thigh. Think about pushing your knee into that back. Pushing that back knee down into the floor. Activating that back hip flexor. Holding here for a couple of breaths. Exhale, bringing your hands down, sending your hips back, flexing your foot, drive your heel down into the floor, feeling that connection where your hamstring meets your glute. Inhale, shifting forward, stepping back into downward facing dog, bringing that right knee forward, planting the foot. Setting up for that lunge, pulling your feet together, lifting the hips. Exhale, sink. Pull the feet together. Exhale, sink. One more time, pulling those feet together. Exhale, sink, lowering the knee. Coming up, low crescent lunge. Bringing your hands down to your thigh, pressing that back knee in, engaging those hip flexors. Releasing, bring the hands down, send your hips back, bring the toes, flex the foot, drive that heel down. Feel that tension all up the back of your leg. Shifting forward, downward facing dog. Sending that left leg forward between your hands, right foot comes up to meet. Halfway lift, exhale, fold. Reverse swan dive up. Hands to touch. Exhale, dive. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down, stepping that right foot back. This time, lifting up into a high lunge. We're going to tap the knee down. Exhale, tap the knee and rise. Down and rise. Last time, down, coming up, holding. Exhale, bringing that knee down. We're going to bring our hands down. You're going to take that black leg, turn it out behind you. Straighten that front leg. Hand coming down to the mat. We're going to lift our arm overhead. Inhale, think about turning your chest more and more up towards the ceiling, taking that arm behind you for a half wild thing. Each inhale, pulling that top shoulder blade a little bit further back. Firmly pressing in that foot of that straight leg. Hips coming forward into the extension. Coming center. Bringing your hands up, bending that knee. Turning that leg back. Downward facing dog. Sending that right foot forward. Setting up for the high lunge. Bringing it up. High lunge. Let's do those knee taps. Bringing the knee down and up. Down and up. Last one. Down. Hold it up. And then sending that knee down. Turning that leg out to the side. Straightening that front leg. Coming into that gate pose. Opening up the chest. Push those hips forward. For that modified wild thing. Each inhale, pulling that shoulder blade back. Coming forward, lifting up, turning that leg back into that lunge, stepping back, downward facing dog. Walking your feet towards the front of the mat. Exhale, rib cage to thighs, coming closer and closer into that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive up. Exhale, folding. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, coming down, stepping back into that downward facing dog. We're going to send that right foot up, nice long line. Then we're going to bend the knee, sending that knee up towards the sky. Knee higher than hip, looking under that shoulder. Then you can stay here. You can start coming into that wild thing. Opening until you flip, pressing those hips high to the sky. Trying to find max hip extension here. Inhale, chest opening. And then when you're ready, flip around, back into that downward facing dog. Maybe dropping down into a child's pose just for a moment. Then coming back into that downward facing dog. We'll come to the other side. Sitting that leg back first. Bending that knee, opening up that hip, looking underneath the shoulder. Opening the leg. Taking it back and back. And then maybe flipping that flip. Opening up. Pressing those hips to the sky. One more round of breath here. Flipping around to that downward facing dog. Taking it down. Child's pose. Now, you can use 2 blocks or 2 chairs for this next portion. We want to think about trying to keep our shoulders stacked over our hips as we practice this front split. Makes it a little harder, a little bit more strength work, so you are strengthening in this pose. I'm going to start by taking that left leg forward, coming into the low lunge. And we're going to just start by rocking back and forth. So we're going to go forward as far as we can into the lunge, and then taking it back into that half monkey. And we're just going to rock back and forwards, increasing the distance between our heel and our knee. Taking your time until you get to about where you feel like you're about at your max level. Then we're going to take the blocks. And then the higher the setting, actually the harder it's going to be. And you're going to take your shoulders, try to stack them over your hips. And then from here, you can think about driving that heel, front heel down, back knee, maybe slightly lifting your hips up, holding it for a couple of contractions before sinking it down. Maybe adjusting a little wider. Press and release. Press and release. Holding here. Then if you want, for the last couple of seconds, walk your hands forward, come into the hinge, exhaling, rib cage down to that thigh. And then we'll walk out of it. Bring that knee a little bit closer, coming out through that rocking motion until you get to that low lunge. Then we're just going to step back into that downward facing dog so we can bring that right foot forward, setting up on the other side. Once you're here, start that rocking motion forward and back as you increase that distance to see where you're at on your front splits today. And you just keep walking till you get to close to your bottom of your distance that you can get. And then think about lifting that chest, stacking shoulders over hips, exhaling ribs to belt line. And then adding those presses. Press the heel into the ground, back knee into the ground, holding for a couple of breaths, releasing into it, maybe walking it out a little bit further, pressing in and release. Last one, pressing in and release, holding this for a couple of breaths. And maybe walking your hands forward, exhaling rib cage to that thigh. The last bit of time that we're in the splits. And then coming out of it, rocking back and forwards to come out. Bringing that leg back. Finding a comfortable seat. I thank you for joining me today. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.